so I begged my father to get me this journal. He's always been a wonderful father, even if he's not the same since my mother died. He was constantly interested in teaching me how to write and other things. He stated that words are the most essential thing in the world. He writes novels for a living, so I suppose he expects me to do the same. When I told him I wanted to write things down, he was overjoyed and bought me this really cool diary with a leather cover. I was 5 years old when my mother died of a heart attack, but I have vivid memories of her. I'm 9 years old now, yet I still miss her. I start to forget her face now and then, but we have a lot of photo albums and other things that I look at a lot. My father is occasionally depressed, and I can hear him crying in the middle of the night. He's dabbled in dating, but he constantly claims that no one can compare to Mama. It would be strange if he met someone. I mean, would I have to call her Mom even if she was just a lady? Even if it might be awkward for me, I still want Dad to be happy. I didn't want to write about the sad stuff in this diary, but I've heard it's beneficial to do so to help others deal with it. But that's not why I asked my father for it. The reality is, strange things do happen at night. I mean, it's not so much bizarre stuff as it is a strange thing. It only happens every couple of weeks, and sometimes only once a month, so it's not a big deal. It's been going on since before my mother died, although it surprised me at first. I assume I was just a stupid kid the first time I saw it, but now that I'm older, I realize it's not normal. I began to question my father about it, but it sounded crazy when I spoke it aloud, so I told him I was just playing. It's sort of like a bridge leading away from my bedroom window. It recalls me of those wooden ones you see in the woods, except it's a lot longer. I was a little worried the first time I truly looked at it because it wasn't there before, and then it was. It appears that I could simply open my window and walk across it, but what if it disappears while I'm on it? I don't want to splat on the ground or anything, but I'm curious to see where it goes. It just emerged the other day, so I'm guessing it won't return for a while. When it does, I'll write more. Last night, the bridge reopened. I wasn't feeling well, so I didn't even bother going to look at it. But I could see it through the glass. This time, it also made noises. I have a epilepsy or something, but I can't quite put it into words. It causes my body to do strange things at times, and I eventually blank out. My father claims I have further issues, but I'm not sure. I have to take a lot of pills every day, and some of them make me dizzy, but Daddy says I have too. But none of that was what was wrong with me last night. I believe I have a cold or something. My father becomes quite concerned about whenever I have a bug of any type. He claims I have a faulty immune system or something. I despise it when he uses fancy words. I believe he makes them up on occasion. But I'm not feeling well at all. Maybe I'll feel better the next time the bridge comes into view. I'm feeling better now. I have to take another new medicine, but the doctor says it will help me fight off infections. I haven't seen the bridge in ages. I'm not sure if it grew bored while waiting for me to leave the hospital. I suppose I wouldn't bother waiting for someone if it appeared that they had left. It's fine, though. My father began conversing with one of the hospital nurses. They both laughed a lot, and she continued stroking his arm. He calls her frequently, and they've been going out to dinner on occasion. She is, nevertheless, a lovely person. It's strange to see them holding hands, but Daddy appears to be really happy. It could be strange if they marry, but I don't mind. Okay. I'm going to play right now. I can't keep writing about you all day, diary. Halloween is quickly approaching. I'm overjoyed. Daddy says I can't go trick-or-treating for too long because it's chilly outdoors and he doesn't want me to get sick. I'm sure I can persuade him to let me stay out longer. Nurse Mandy will also be there, and I know she'll be a sucker for my puppy dog looks. She's a lovely lady, and she's been around a lot lately. I thought I heard her arguing with Daddy the other night, but he said that they were watching a terrifying movie, which caused her to scream a lot. I asked if I could watch the movie with him, but he told it was exclusively for adults. I got to see some scary movies, but they were only for kids. Nickelodeon has started airing some hilarious spooky cartoons that are a lot of fun. They played the Garfield Halloween video, which I really enjoy. There are even ghost pirates. They do, however, frighten me. I assume they're supposed to be frightening, so I don't mind. I don't particularly enjoy the singing bits, yet it remains my fave. I enjoy the Charlie Brown one as well, but it hasn't yet shown. So the bridge reappeared last night. This time, I really wanted to open the window and climb out, but it still made me anxious. I attempted to remain awake all night to see how long it lasted there, but I eventually fell asleep. But it had been there for a long time. I'm not sure when I passed out, as Nurse Mandy puts it, but I know the bridge was there for hours before I passed out. I really want to get out there soon, but I don't want to miss Thanksgiving or Christmas if it disappears before I can return. It'd be terrible if I got to the other end and it gone. When I do go on it, I'll be sure to wear my watch. If it takes hours to go across it, I might just turn around. My father would be concerned if I was gone for an extended period of time. Nurse Mandy is going to order pizza shortly, so I'm going to take a shower before it arrives. I'm really hungry. It's almost Christmas. I realize that was a lot of explanation points, but I'm very excited. I've been really good this year, despite punching Ben, the youngster next door, in the mouth last week. He was mocking me because I was homeschooled, and he referred to me as handicapped. I'm not sure what that means, but my father thought he was a strange thing to call me. I'm not supposed to say those things, but I don't think it matters if I type them. Even though I didn't grasp it, it enraged me, and I punched him in the face. He's only a few years my senior, but he cried like a baby. I knew it was cruel, and I shouldn't have done it, but my father only chuckled. He informed me that Santa would forgive me because I was defending myself. I hope he's correct. This year, I've been working extra hard to be extra super good. I desperately want a Super Nintendo. I'm sure they make those at the North Pole, but I'm hoping I've done well enough to acquire one. Daddy said he had a good feeling about it, but he can't make any promise because Santa can be unpredictable, or something. Anyway, the bridge has appeared 3 times since I last wrote in here. But I didn't go on it. That last time, I truly wanted to. I opened my window to have a better look, but I was too afraid to get on it. I hit the wood with my hands, and it's true. I mean, it appears to be present. If I'm not too scared, I might jump on it the next time it comes back. It sounds like it's talking a little bit. I mean, it's not actually saying anything, but I assume it wants me to step on it. I'm going to do it, but not until after Christmas. There are only 2 days left. I'm overjoyed. That was even more explanation points than the last time. My father is getting married to Manny, a nurse. It's still strange, but he's quite happy. But he lets me call her Manny. Calling her mommy would be absurd. I mean, she's a really sweet lady who buys me a lot of cool stuff, but calling her mom simply doesn't feel right. I received my Super Nintendo. It's fantastic, and Mandy and Daddy like playing on it with me. I still have a good time when it's just me playing, but it's even better when they join in. I went across the bridge last night. I was going to go when it arrived last month. But it was only a few days after Christmas, and I got a bunch of pretty wonderful items. With my Nintendo, I received Final Fight, Super Mario World, and F-Zero. I also received some Ninja Turtles, Transformers, and Star Wars toys. I also got some board games, but they're not quite as entertaining as my wonderful Super Nintendo. Anyway, the bridge was quite long. I felt like I was walking in circles. I almost turned around a couple of times, but I kept going. What was most terrifying was that while I was on it, I appeared to be in outer space. I didn't even notice my street beneath me. There were stars and purple and blue clouds all around me. It was pretty cool looking, but I'm glad the bridge had rails or I would have definitely fallen over. It was difficult to keep my eyes on the road, as Daddy advises while we're in the car. I kept gazing up and down and all about because there was so much wonderful things all around me. So, in the end, after walking for what seemed like an hour, there was merely a round spot of grass with a guy seated at a table. There was still plenty of room surrounding us, but there was also a strange-looking lake next to the round field thing. Another guy was seated on a boat, but I couldn't see his face because he was wearing a hood and didn't look at me. He seemed a touch frightening, but the other gentleman at the table was a really sweet old man. He sported a lengthy beard and very long hair tied behind his head. He appeared to be Santa's brother or something, but he wasn't dressed in a red outfit or anything. He was dressed in a strange gown or something that reminded me of my father's bathrobe. I was wondering if he had just gotten out of the shower when I arrived. Perhaps he was swimming in the gleaming lake where the yacht was docked. He was a little strange, I suppose, but he was incredibly friendly and invited me to play a game with him. I asked him what kind of game he was talking about because my father had warned me about strangers wanting to play messed up games with kids like me, but it was just board games. When I asked what he had, he said whatever I wanted. It was bizarre because I didn't notice any boxes or anything else. I asked him whether he had hungry hippos or sari, both of which I excel at. He reached under the table and yanked both of them out. It was really cool because I hadn't seen them before. So, he claimed he only had time to play one, but he informed me that if I lost, I'd have to accompany him. That terrified me a little since I didn't want to leave my papa and Super Nintendo, but I had a hunch I could defeat him. He sounded educated in everything, but I'm really good with hungry hippos. I absolutely kicked his butt. He didn't stand a chance! He truly seemed pleased that I had won, and he smiled broadly. His teeth were exceptionally white for such an ancient man. They were most likely fakers or something, but they appeared genuine. So he said his goodbyes and told me I should get going as well. I rushed back across the bridge, but returning to my house was much faster than leaving it. Anyway, that was cool, but I was glad to get back to my room. My body is fatigued all the time, but it wasn't like that while I was on the bridge or hanging out with the old man. But as soon as I went back through my window, I fell asleep. I flopped into my bed and promptly fell asleep. It was a fun night, but I'm not sure I'll go back the next time. This is quite strange. I went back on the bridge a month later when it reappeared. I wasn't going since my body had been acting up, but I remembered how amazing I felt when I went out there. I played Monopoly with the old man this time because I'm also pretty excellent at it, and the game lasted a long time. Like insanely lengthy. I still kicked his buttocks, but when I returned to my bedroom, it wasn't mine. The bridge had not changed course, but it had led me to a hospital. When I walked through the window, I was exhausted and just dropped into the bed that was there, but when I woke up, it was like 6 months later. When I awoke, my father and Nurse Mandy rushed in, saying I had been in a coma or something. That's strange, because my father taught me about comas while I was learning to write, but he never told me I could catch one. He stated it was a different kind of coma, but I'm still confused. He said I had a pretty nasty spell picture or something that caused me to have a coma. When I told him about the bridge, he said I didn't need to cross it anymore, even if he doesn't believe me. He claimed it was either my imagination or a strange dream, but I shouldn't go out there regardless. I explained how it made my body feel better, but he still refused. It's kind of a bummer because I enjoy the old man who plays the games with me and don't want him to think I'm furious with him or anything. But I'm not sure I'll go again. I don't want to make my father cry again. He hasn't done that since he married Nurse Mandy, but when I woke up, he was wailing like a baby. I apologized, and he stated it wasn't my fault, but I still felt horrible. I got this diary to write about strange things, but I'm not sure if I'll write much more. I like it, but much of what I do is probably too boring to write about. I only returned home today, but I wanted to put this down before I forgot. Daddy and Mandy want me to play Super Nintendo with them, so I'll go do that. I almost forgot about my old diary until I discovered it under the bed. We're moving to a new neighborhood, but my father won't let me help much with packing. I did, however, grab a few of boxes to pack up some of my belongings. He's been quite busy with the relocation, and I don't want any of my belongings to be misplaced or damaged. I turned 11 last week, and my spelling has improved significantly. I went back over what I'd written previously and realized how horrible it was funny. I'm still having difficulties with some of the more difficult vocabulary, but I'm getting better. But my body is feeling a lot worse these days. That's probably why Dad doesn't want Meadow help much with the move. My epilepsy has improved recently, but my immune system is having greater difficulty. After my 6-month coma, I had to undergo a battery of tests, and the doctors determined I had leukemia or something. I had to undergo these dreadful procedures, which make my body feel even worse. My father claims that the town we're moving to is near a faculty that can aid me more than the doctors here. I despise all of the tests and treatments, but Manny claims that they're only to make me feel better, yet they make me feel even worse. I feel horrible that we have to relocate to a new town solely for me. Dad claims he works from home anyway, but Mandy will have to relocate to a different hospital. She claims not to mind, but I still feel guilty. I suppose it'll all work out in the end. At the very least, because I'm homeschooling, I don't have to worry about being awkward around other kids. The bridge has continued to appear every month or so. I did as Dad asked and never looked back. But I really wanted to when I was feeling down. I suppose I won't have to worry about it after we relocate. It drove me to the hospital, but I doubt it will know how to follow me to my new home. I'm wondering if the old man is upset with me because I'm no longer coming to see him. It doesn't really matter, I suppose. I'm going to finish boxing everything up immediately. I may write again once we move into our new home. So, we've lived in our new home for a few months. It's lovely, but my bedroom is now on the first level. My father says I'm too weak to go up and down stairs anymore. I suppose he's correct. I've been feeling awful recently. This year, I couldn't even go trick-or-treating, which was a tremendous bummer. Despite the fact that my room is situated near to a large tree, the bridge found me again. It's strange how it just cuts the tree short, but it's back to full size by morning. Last night, I really wanted to climb out there. Everything hurts right now. The new doctors have been trying a lot of new things, but I still have to endure the horrible treatments. I used to be afraid of needles, and they used to make me weep, but they no longer bother me. Mandy describes me as a pincushion. It's amusing, and the way she said it makes me chuckle, but all I want is to be a normal kid. I watch the neighborhood kids playing in their yards, but I don't even get out of the home unless I have to go to the doctor. Sometimes I wish I could be like the other kids. I have a lot of toys and things that other kids don't have, but I also want to be able to run around. I suppose I shouldn't complain about it. When I'm feeling low, my father reminds me that things might always be worse. I'm sure I could run across the bridge. I believe I'll take a nap. Last night, I went back across the bridge. I know I shouldn't, but I just wanted to avoid pain for a little bit. It was good to see the old man again, and he looked pleased to see me. He appeared sad, but he wasn't upset with me for remaining away. What made this time so special was the presence of my mother. She wasn't really there, but the old man made it possible for me to communicate with her via the table where we generally play games. That may sound strange, but it's what happened. The table is round and generally just a solid piece of wood, but he made it perform some interesting things. He plunged his finger into the top of it, and it changed into a kind of wood-looking liquid. He swirled it around, and it transformed into crystal clear, gleaming water. My mother's visage appeared in it after a few minutes. She could see me as well. Even though I don't look at the images very often, I recognized it was her right away. When she spotted me, she burst into tears, and I did as well. I know I'm getting older and shouldn't cry anymore, but I did. I could hear her voice, but it sounded really distant. The old man stated we could just converse for a few minutes, but it was incredible. I had forgotten how much I yearned for her. After I had to leave, the elderly man explained that we didn't have time for a full game, but we still had to play something. He said that it was part of the rules, whatever that meant. He just took out a deck of cards and placed it on the table, which had reverted to wood. He said the highest card wins, so I just took the one on top. He divided the deck in half and grabbed the next card down. He only had a 3 of diamonds, whereas I had a 6 of spades. He chuckled and told me I had him again, and I laughed along with him. I hugged him goodbye since I still felt awful about my absence. He told me that it wasn't typical here, but he didn't mind. I said my goodbyes and returned home. My body started hurting again as soon as I returned to my room, so I crawled back into bed. It was strange because as soon as I lay back down and closed my eyes, someone forced my eyelids open and shone a flashlight into them. I hadn't even noticed anyone else in my room, but my father and Mandy were there, along with the other guy with the lamp. My father informed me that the man was a paramedic. He said I was having an episode, whatever that is, but I informed him I had just returned. I didn't want to tell him I went on the bridge again, but I had no choice. He wasn't angry, though. He started wailing again, and I had to return to the hospital. I'll be here for a few days, but they allowed me bring my diary so I can jot down notes. My father wanted to read it, but I refused it because it was private. I'm hooked up to some strange, flashing devices, and needles have been shoved in me again, but I have a TV in my own room to myself. I'm wondering whether Dad could bring my Super Nintendo with him. There aren't many channels on television. I'm going to ask him. Outside, it's snowing. I really want to go play in it, but I'm back in the hospital. Insane hospital. I despise it so much. My grandparents visited me yesterday and kept sobbing and such. Of course, their crying made me cry, and I had no idea why I was crying. My father has been residing with me. He does, however, sleep in another room. The doctor advised me not to keep people in here for too long because I am prone to diseases. I was allowed to bring my Nintendo and a few other things. This time, I've been here for a long. I suppose it's not too horrible, although I doubt I'll be home for Christmas. I'm wondering if Santa will deliver my gifts here or if I'll have to wait until I go home. Perhaps Dad or Mandy can deliver them to me. I can't move much these days, but I'm sure I can still unwrap a present like a champ. My hair had fallen out. I was unhappy about it for a long, but it's all right now. It was difficult to wash it when I was in the hospital the last time, and it became irritating at times. Without my hair, my head gets quite cold. That's strange, but Mandy remarked I look good with a bald head. That's also strange. The bridge has been visible through the window the entire time I've been in here. I keep wanting to go out there, but I'm not sure I can with all of these equipment attached to me. I'm not even sure how to open this window. But I guess I don't need to go out in the cold. I never paid attention to whether it was cold or hot on the bridge. I suppose I'll go back to sleep. It's difficult for me to remain awake these days. Perhaps it's the medication they keep giving me. However, I am quite fatigued. Santa had to have visited the hospital. When I woke up on Christmas morning, I had so many presents. Because I'm so feeble right now, I had to enlist the assistance of my father to open them. But I did get some new games for my Super Nintendo. Yesterday, my father and I spent a lot of time playing. It was a lot of fun, but I grew weary quickly. I persisted, however. I hadn't seen Dad grin in a long time. I didn't tell him or Mandy I was sick because they were having so much fun. I believe I'm about to return to the bridge. It looks a little different now. In some ways, it appears brighter. It only became shiny a few minutes ago, yet it's calling to me in an odd way. Someone is working on it. They're approaching the window. That has never occurred before. It's my mother. Mommy is nearby. It's truly her exclamation mark I'm leaving right now. I'm sorry I can't write anymore, because she's knocking on the glass. I'll continue tomorrow. I'm overjoyed.
That was Toby's final entry in his diary. We lost him the day after Christmas, back on that snowy night in 1993. He'd been suffering for so long, and the agony of losing him before he'd ever had a chance to live still drives me to tears. He already had epilepsy and a severe immunodeficiency before being diagnosed with leukemia. We all knew he didn't stand a chance. Even though he was in a lot of pain, he was always a joyful kid. My wife, Mandy, had only recently entered his life, and she adored him as if he were her own. There was something about him that made everyone who met him happy. I can't tell you how much it hurt when he died. In early 2002, Mandy and I welcomed a daughter into the world. I was concerned that I had grown too old to raise another kid, and I was still plagued by the loss of my first, but Gracie made me feel like a teenager again. She was fortunate to be born joyful and healthy. She was the one who brought me back to life after I had lost my son. She was just as amazing as her brother, and we made certain she got to know him despite the fact that they would never meet. She would even kiss his picture before going to bed on occasion. My wife died of a stroke 2 years ago. It was unexpected and painful, but we had a good life together despite the difficulties. She was there for me when my son's death pushed me over the edge, and I miss her so much. My life has been filled with both amazing and sad experiences. As I approach my 64th year on this planet, I believe I have little time left. A year or two before my wife died, I was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer. It's been an uphill battle for the last year, but I've accepted it. I had to bury 2 wives and a son I adored with all my heart. I believe I am prepared for whatever is ahead. My darling daughter has been in college for the last 2 years, but she is currently on her way out here. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to see her one last time. A bridge has been outside the window off my hospital room for the past week. I used to think it was just a wonderful story made up by my son's incredible imagination, but now I know what it means. I can see 3 figures in the distance heading along the bridge towards me as I sit here staring out the window. I'm no longer terrified. I'm leaving a note for Gracie to apologize for not being able to see her again. I know she has a fantastic life ahead of her, and my only sorrow is that I won't be able to witness her blossom into the amazing woman I know she will be. I'll have her upload these final words as a message from my darling Toby. Don't be alarmed if you see a bridge outside your window. Nothing ever comes to an end. Not at all.